Hello and welcome. Today we embark on a rather special kind of journey, not across the vast savannas or into the deep oceans, but through the heart of a nation shaped by centuries of turmoil and triumph, Germany. This is a land where history is not merely written in books, but etched into the very stones of its cities and the silhouettes of its forests. Our expedition will take us through its most significant landmarks, each a living testament to a particular chapter in a long and complex story of human endeavor. We will witness the grandeur of Berlin's iconic gates, which have seen both emperors and division, and now stand for unity. We will explore the fairy tale castles that seem to spring from the pages of legend, and marvel at the soaring ambition of cathedrals that took generations to complete. Our path will also lead us through the quiet, cobbled streets of medieval towns that have weathered the storms of time, and into the solemn spaces of Holocaust memorials, where memory is preserved with profound reverence. This is a journey through culture, art, power, and, crucially, memory. It is with this last point in mind that we must proceed with a particular sensitivity. Many of the sites we will visit are not just tourist attractions. They are places of deep historical weight and, in some cases, immense sorrow. When we venture into these memorials, it is essential that our actions are guided by respect and quiet contemplation. These are spaces for learning and remembrance, and our presence there is a privilege. So, let us begin, with open minds and thoughtful hearts, to explore the remarkable landmarks of Germany. Our journey begins here, in the heart of Berlin, before a structure that is far more than mere stone and mortar: the Brandenburg Gate. When it was completed in the late 18th century, it was a symbol of Prussian might and peace, crowned by the Quadriga, the chariot of victory. For decades, it stood as a majestic city gate, a grand entrance to the famous Unter den Linden Boulevard. It watched as Napoleon marched through, taking its chariot as a prize, and saw its triumphant return. It has been a backdrop for imperial parades, political rallies, and the grand theater of history. But in the 20th century, its meaning was dramatically and tragically altered. The construction of the Berlin Wall in 1961 sealed it off, placing it in a desolate no-man's land. For nearly 30 years, it became a potent symbol, not of victory, but of a world, a nation, and a city brutally divided. It stood as a silent, impassive witness to the Cold War's bitter standoff. And then, in 1989, as the wall crumbled, it was here that the world witnessed scenes of incredible jubilation. The gate was thrown open, and it was reborn, transformed into the preeminent symbol of Germany's reunification and of freedom's enduring power. A short walk from the Brandenburg Gate stands another giant of German history, the Reichstag building. Its life began in the late 19th century, the seat of the newly unified German Empire's parliament. Its grand dome and neo-Renaissance facade were designed to project power and prestige. But its story is one of repeated trauma and rebirth. In 1933, a devastating fire here provided the pretext for the Nazi seizure of absolute power, effectively ending democracy within its walls. The building became a husk, a symbol of a failed republic. Decades later, after the ravages of war left it scarred and battered, one can still see the Cyrillic graffiti left by Soviet soldiers who stormed it in 1945. It was painstakingly restored. Following reunification, it once again became the home of the German parliament. The most striking addition is the magnificent glass dome, designed by architect Norman Foster. It is a deliberate and powerful statement. Citizens can ascend a spiral ramp within it, looking down upon the politicians at work below. It is a living metaphor for transparency, a declaration that the government is and must always be accountable to its people. Here, on a small island in the River Spree, lies one of the world's most extraordinary ensembles of art and archaeology. This is Museum Island, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is not one institution, but 5, each a treasure house in its own right, built over the course of a century. The Altes Museum, the first to be built, houses classical antiquities, a temple to Greek and Roman art. The Neues Museum, resurrected from the ruins of war, is famously home to the bust of Nefertiti, an icon of ancient Egyptian beauty. The Alte National Gallery, resembling a classical temple, showcases 19th century European art, from Romanticism to Impressionism. The Bode Museum, at the island's tip, presents a stunning collection of sculpture and Byzantine art. And finally, the monumental Pergamon Museum, which houses colossal architectural reconstructions like the Ishtar Gate of Babylon and the Pergamon altar itself. To walk here is to travel through 6,000 years of human creativity, a testament to the Enlightenment ideal of making art and knowledge accessible to all. It is a collection of collections, a repository of world culture in the center of Berlin. The Berlin Wall was more than just a physical barrier. It was really an ideological wound, a scar that ran through the city for 28 years. Today, only fragments remain, but, they serve as powerful reminders. The most significant of these is the Berlin Wall Memorial on Bernauer Straße. This is not some sanitized reconstruction. It actually preserves a full section of the border fortifications, the inner wall, the patrol road, the light masts, and the outer wall, creating what was known as the Death Strip. It's a chillingly authentic glimpse into the brutal reality of division. In stark contrast stands the East Side Gallery. This is the longest surviving stretch of the wall, but it has been transformed. Immediately after the wall fell, artists from all over the world flocked here to cover its eastern face with murals. These paintings speak of hope, freedom, and the end of oppression. They turned a symbol of repression into a vibrant, open-air gallery, a monument to joy and reunification. Yet, this very vibrancy sparks debate. How does one preserve a monument to division while also celebrating its demise? It's a question Berlin continues to grapple with, balancing memory with art. We now journey south to the Bavarian Alps, to a site that honestly seems plucked from the pages of a storybook. This is Neuschwanstein Castle. Perched precariously on a rugged hill, with towers and turrets reaching for the sky, it is the quintessential fairy tale castle. It was the vision of one man, King Ludwig II of Bavaria, often called the Fairy Tale King. He was a reclusive monarch, obsessed with the romantic myths of medieval Germany, particularly the operas of Richard Wagner. This castle was not built for defense, but as a private refuge, a fantasy world made real. Construction began in 1869, but it was never completed in Ludwig's lifetime. He lived here for only 172 days before his mysterious death. Ironically, the castle he built to escape the public eye was open to visitors just weeks after he died. Today, it is one of the most famous landmarks in the world, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that draws millions. Its immense popularity presents a constant challenge for conservation, a delicate balancing act between preserving this fragile romantic dream and accommodating the endless stream of pilgrims who come to witness its magic. Overlooking the Neckar River and the ancient university town of Heidelberg, we find a different kind of beauty. Not of fairy tale perfection, but of majestic decay. Heidelberg Castle is one of Germany's most magnificent ruins. Its story spans centuries, a patchwork of architectural styles from Gothic to Renaissance. For hundreds of years, it was the residence of the Prince-Electors of the Palatinate, a center of power and culture. Its gardens, the Hortus Palatinus, were once considered an eighth wonder of the world. But its fortunes turned. It was ravaged by wars in the 17th century and struck by lightning in the 18th, which left it largely uninhabitable. For a time, its stones were even quarried for local buildings. Yet, it was in this state of ruin that it found a new life. The German Romantic movement fell in love with its broken grandeur, seeing it as a perfect symbol of the sublime and the transient nature of human creation. Today, it remains partially ruined, a conscious decision to preserve its romantic character, forever entwined with the intellectual life of Germany's oldest university below. Way up high above the Thuringian forest, there's a castle that's been super important in German history for 1,000 years. This is Wartburg Castle, and it's so special it's on the UNESCO World Heritage List. It started way back in the Middle Ages, a perfect example of an old-school fortress. It's famous for being where the Sängerkrieg happened, which was a legendary singing contest for minstrels back in the 1200s. It's a place full of old stories and legends, a real spot that inspired famous artists like Wagner and, well, the whole country. But its most important moment happened in 1521. After being called a heretic, Martin Luther found a safe place here. Hiding right out in the open, using the name Junker Jörg, he took on a huge job. In just 10 weeks, he translated the New Testament from Greek into German. This was a game changer. It meant everyday people could read the Bible, and it even helped make the German language more consistent. This act really pushed forward the Protestant Reformation, which totally changed European history. This castle isn't just made of stone, it's a castle of big ideas. We return now to the outskirts of Berlin, to Potsdam, and to a world of exquisite elegance and intellectual curiosity. This is the Palace of Sanssouci. Its name, from the French for without a care, perfectly captures its purpose. It was the summer palace and private sanctuary of Frederick the Great, King of Prussia. Unlike the imposing palaces of his contemporaries, Sanssouci is an intimate, single-story Rococo villa, designed to be a place of relaxation and philosophical contemplation, closely connected to nature. The palace itself is the jewel in a much larger crown, the vast network of palaces and parks of Potsdam and Berlin, another UNESCO World Heritage Site. Frederick and his successors shaped this landscape according to the ideals of the Enlightenment. It is a harmonious blend of art and nature, with follies, temples, and grottos scattered throughout meticulously designed gardens. It was a place where the king could converse with Voltaire, play his flute, and escape the burdens of rule. It remains a masterpiece of landscape design, a physical manifestation of an age of reason and refinement. In the heart of Franconia, we find one of the most splendid and coherent examples of Baroque art in all of Europe, the Würzburg residence. Commissioned by the powerful prince-bishops of the Schönborn family in the 18th century, it was intended to be a statement of absolute power and divine taste. The greatest architects, painters, and sculptors of the era were brought together to create this synthesis of the arts. Its scale is immense, a U-shaped palace of staggering opulence and grandeur. The true marvel lies within. The grand staircase is surmounted by the world's largest fresco, a breathtaking masterpiece by the Venetian artist Giovanni Battista Tiepolo, depicting the 4 continents. It is an illusionistic wonder that seems to open the ceiling to the heavens. The palace was almost completely destroyed by bombing in the final days of World War II, with only the central block, including the staircase and its precious fresco, miraculously surviving. Its meticulous, decades-long restoration is a testament to German resilience and dedication to preserving its cultural treasures. It dominates the skyline, a pair of colossal spires that seem to pierce the very clouds. This is Cologne Cathedral, a giant of Gothic architecture and a monument to enduring faith. Construction began in 1248, with an ambition that was almost unimaginable: to create the grandest church in Christendom, a fitting home for its most precious relic, the Shrine of the Three Kings, which was said to contain the bones of the Magi. For centuries, this relic made Cologne one of Europe's most important pilgrimage destinations. The scale of the project was so vast that work halted in the 16th century, leaving the cathedral incomplete for over 300 years, a giant crane looming over the half-finished South Tower. It was only in the 19th century, with the rise of German nationalism, that the original medieval plans were rediscovered, and the cathedral was finally completed in 1880, a symbol of national unity. Miraculously, it survived the intense bombing of World War II, standing tall amidst the ruins of the city. Today, it remains an active place of worship and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, drawing millions of pilgrims and tourists alike. Further south, on the banks of the Rhine, stands a monument of a different style, but of no less importance: Speyer Cathedral. Consecrated in 1061, it is one of the largest and most significant Romanesque churches in the world. Its design is one of immense power and clarity. Unlike the delicate, soaring heights of the Gothic style, Romanesque is solid, grounded, and monumental. Its thick walls, rounded arches, and symmetrical layout were meant to convey stability and imperial authority. This was, for a time, the most important church in the Holy Roman Empire. Its vast crypt, a forest of columns, became the chosen burial place for a succession of German emperors and kings for nearly 300 years. To walk through its hallowed halls is to feel the weight of that imperial history. It was a declaration in stone of the Salian dynasty's power and their perceived role as God's representatives on earth. Despite damage and alterations over the centuries, its essential Romanesque character remains, a powerful echo of a bygone imperial age. We travel now to the westernmost city in Germany, to Aachen, and to the very dawn of the Holy Roman Empire. Aachen Cathedral is a building of unparalleled historical significance. At its heart is the Palatine Chapel, the core of the structure, consecrated around the year 800. This was the personal chapel of Charlemagne, the first Holy Roman Emperor. Its octagonal design, inspired by Byzantine churches, was a marvel of Carolingian architecture, a fusion of classical and Christian traditions. For 600 years, from 936 to 1531, this was the coronation church for the kings of Germany. 30 kings and 12 queens were crowned here, sitting upon a simple marble throne believed to have been used by Charlemagne himself. The cathedral grew around this sacred core, with the magnificent Gothic choir hall added in the 14th century to house precious relics. It was the first German site to be named a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a recognition of its status as the cradle of a European empire and a masterpiece of religious architecture. On the banks of the Moselle River lies Germany's oldest city, Trier. To walk here is to step back into the Roman Empire. Founded by Emperor Augustus, it became known as Roma Secunda, the Second Rome. For a time, it was one of the 4 capitals of the empire and the residence of Emperor Constantine the Great. The legacy of that era is everywhere, a collection of Roman monuments so extensive and well-preserved, they are collectively a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The most famous of these is the Porta Nigra, the Black Gate. It is the largest Roman city gate north of the Alps, a colossal brooding structure of sandstone darkened by time. It has survived for nearly 2 millennia because it was converted into a church in the Middle Ages. But there is more. The ruins of 3 vast Roman baths, an amphitheatre that once held 20,000 spectators, and the Basilica of Constantine, a Roman audience hall of staggering interior size, its scale intended to overwhelm and impress. Trier is not just a German city, it is a living museum of Roman power and engineering. We find ourselves now on the Danube, in a city that seems almost untouched by the modern age. This is the old town of Regensburg. During the High Middle Ages, this was one of Germany's most prosperous and populous cities. Its strategic location on the river made it a vital hub for trade routes connecting Northern Europe with Venice. The wealth of its merchant families is still visible today in the city's unique architecture. Unlike other German cities, Regensburg's skyline is dotted with tall, fortified residential towers built by wealthy families in the Italian style to display their status and for protection. The city boasts an extraordinary number of original medieval buildings, including the Old Stone Bridge, a 12th century engineering marvel, and the magnificent St. Peter's Cathedral. Because it escaped major damage in World War II, its historic core remains remarkably intact. To wander its narrow alleys and grand squares is to experience a medieval trading metropolis at the height of its power. Built on 7 hills, much like Rome, the town of Bamberg in northern Bavaria is another urban masterpiece. It represents a rare and precious survival, a Central European town that perfectly synthesizes medieval and Baroque architecture. Its layout, which developed from the 10th century onwards, remains largely unchanged. Its historic ensemble of buildings is so unique and complete that it has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The town is a delight of architectural contrasts. On one hill stands the magnificent 4-towered Imperial Cathedral, a mix of Romanesque and Gothic styles, housing the tomb of an emperor and a pope. Below, along the river, is Little Venice, a picturesque row of former fishermen's houses, and perhaps most famously, the Old Town Hall, a frescoed marvel built on an artificial island in the middle of the Regnitz River, connected by 2 bridges. Bamberg's ability to absorb and display different architectural periods without losing its fundamental character makes it a truly exceptional place. We travel north to the Baltic coast, to the city of Lübeck, once the capital and queen of the Hanseatic League. For centuries, this powerful confederation of merchant guilds dominated trade across northern Europe, from London to Novgorod. Lübeck's wealth and influence during this period were immense, and the city's old town, an island surrounded by water, is a testament to that golden age. Its skyline is defined by 7 church spires, a symbol of its prosperity. The city is the birthplace of Brick Gothic, an architectural style that adapted the grandeur of French cathedrals to the materials available in the region red brick. The most iconic symbol of Lübeck's power is the Holstentor, a formidable twin-towered city gate built in the 15th century. Its slightly skewed towers and bold inscription, Concordia Domi Foris Pax, harmony at home, peace abroad, proclaimed the city's self-confidence to all who approached. The entire Old Town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a perfectly preserved monument to medieval mercantile power. Along Bavaria's romantic road, we discover a town that appears to be frozen in time. This is Rothenburg ob der Tauber. It is perhaps the most perfectly preserved walled medieval town in Germany. To step through its gates is to enter a world of half-timbered houses, cobbled lanes, and flower-filled window boxes. The town's complete circuit of defensive walls, with their towers and covered walkways, can still be walked today, offering wonderful views of the town and the surrounding Tauber Valley. Its remarkable state of preservation is partly due to a decision made in the 19th century to protect its historic character, and partly to a story from World War II, when an American general, aware of its beauty, spared it from destructive artillery fire. This has made Rothenburg immensely popular, a magnet for tourists seeking an idealized vision of old Germany. While this has its challenges, the town remains an enchanting and authentic window into the past, a place where the medieval world feels tantalizingly close. Our journey now takes a solemn and necessary turn. We travel to the outskirts of Munich, to the Dachau concentration camp memorial site. This place holds a grim distinction. Opened in March 1933, just weeks after Hitler came to power, it was the first of the Nazi concentration camps. It was not initially an extermination camp, but a place of terror and forced labor, primarily for political opponents, communists, social democrats, and anyone deemed an enemy of the new regime. Dachau served as the model for all subsequent concentration camps, a school for SS violence where the methods of dehumanization and brutality were perfected. Over its 12 years of operation, more than 200,000 people from all over Europe were imprisoned here, and over 41,500 were murdered. Today, the memorial site preserves the original grounds, the barracks, and the crematorium. It stands as a place of quiet remembrance, but also of education, a stark and essential lesson on the fragility of democracy and the terrifying speed with which a society can descend into barbarism. Just north of Berlin, in Oranienburg, lies the Sachsenhausen Memorial and Museum. Established in 1936, this camp occupied a unique and, honestly, sinister position within the Nazi system. Its proximity to the capital meant it was under the direct control of the SS leadership in Berlin. It was designed with a specific architectural layout, an equilateral triangle with the barracks arranged symmetrically around a central watchtower, Tower A, which was the seat of absolute power. From there, the entire camp could be surveyed by a single machine gun. Sachsenhausen was primarily a camp for political prisoners, but also held Jews, Roma, homosexuals, and prisoners of war. It was a site of horrific medical experiments and the systematic murder of tens of thousands, including around 13,000 Soviet prisoners of war. After the war, it had a second tragic history when it was used by the Soviet secret police as a special camp for their own prisoners. The memorial today confronts this complex dual history, serving as a vital center for education and a powerful warning against all forms of totalitarianism. On the Ettersberg Hill, overlooking the classical city of Weimar, the city of Goethe and Schiller, the heart of German humanism, lies a place of profound contradiction, the Buchenwald Memorial. This brutal juxtaposition was deliberate. The establishment of one of the largest concentration camps on German soil here in 1937 was a direct Nazi assault on the very ideals of culture and enlightenment that Weimar represented. The name Buchenwald, meaning beech forest, really belies the horror that unfolded within. Over 250,000 people were imprisoned in Buchenwald and its many subcamps. It was a place of slave labor for the German war industry, starvation, and arbitrary murder. An estimated 56,000 people perished here. The camp is also notable for being partly liberated by the prisoners themselves just before American troops arrived. The memorial today is vast, encompassing the campgrounds, a museum, and an archive. It is a major center for historical research, dedicated to documenting the crimes committed here and preserving the memory of its victims. We move now to Lower Saxony, to a landscape of heath and forest that holds the memory of Bergen-Belsen. This camp has a complex history, starting as a prisoner of war camp, but it is most infamous for its final catastrophic phase. In the last months of the war, as Allied forces advanced, the Nazis evacuated other camps, forcing prisoners on death marches to Bergen-Belsen. The camp became horrifically overcrowded. With no food, no water, and no sanitation, disease just ran rampant. When British troops liberated the camp in April 1945, they found a scene of unimaginable horror. Thousands of unburied bodies and tens of thousands of inmates near death from starvation and typhus. It was here that Anne Frank and her sister Margot died just weeks before liberation. The images and reports from Bergen-Belsen shocked the world, becoming an enduring symbol of the Holocaust's depravity. After liberation, the original huts were burned to prevent the spread of disease. Today, the memorial is a vast, quiet landscape of grassy mounds, which are mass graves, dotted with individual memorial stones. It is a place of silent, powerful testimony. In the very center of Berlin, just a stone's throw from the Brandenburg Gate, there lies a memorial of profound and, honestly, unsettling power. The memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe. It does not look like a traditional monument at all. There are no statues, no names, no explicit symbols. Instead, what you see is a vast, undulating field of 2,711 concrete slabs, or stelae, all arranged in a grid pattern. The stelae are of different heights, and the ground beneath them rises and falls, creating this disorienting, almost labyrinthine experience. As you walk into the field, the noise of the city just fades away. The concrete pillars start to tower over you, blocking your view. The ground becomes uneven, and you feel isolated, even though you know others are nearby. The architect, Peter Eisenman, really intended to create a place of contemplation and unease, an experience rather than a simple object to be viewed. It's an abstract representation of a system where order and reason were lost, and individuals were swallowed by an inhuman machine. Below the field, there's an information center that gives names and faces to the victims, grounding the abstract experience above impersonal human tragedy. Our journey takes us to Nuremberg, a city forever linked with the rise and fall of the Third Reich. Here, on the city's outskirts, lie the vast and megalomaniacal Nazi Party rally grounds. This was the stage for the regime's massive propaganda spectacles in the 1930s. The scale is immense, designed to dwarf the individual and create a sense of belonging to a powerful, irresistible movement. We see the Zeppelin Field, where Hitler addressed hundreds of thousands, and the colossal, unfinished Congress Hall, modeled on the Colosseum in Rome. Today, this site is not glorified. Instead, a part of the Congress Hall houses the Documentation Center. This excellent museum does not focus on the victims of the Nazis, but on the perpetrators and followers. It dissects the mechanics of propaganda, the Führer cult, and the seductive power that led an entire nation to catastrophe. It is a lesson in civic responsibility, a place that asks not only how did this happen, but also what must we do to ensure it never happens again. It is a sobering examination of the architecture of power and the psychology of persuasion. High on a sandstone ridge overlooking the old town, we find a much older symbol of Nuremberg's importance, the Kaiserburg, or Imperial Castle. For centuries, from the Middle Ages until the 16th century, this castle was one of the most important imperial palaces of the Holy Roman Empire. It was not a permanent residence, but part of a circuit. The itinerant emperors had no fixed capital, and they would travel from one imperial castle to another, holding court and administering justice. The castle complex is a powerful symbol of that imperial history. It consists of the main palace, the Palas, with its imperial apartments, the formidable Sinwell Tower, which offers panoramic views of the city, and the deep well, which plunges more than 50 meters into the rock to ensure a water supply during a siege. The castle was heavily damaged in World War II, but was meticulously restored to its pre-war state. Today, its museum tells the story of the Holy Roman Empire and the castle's central role within it, a stony reminder of a time when Nuremberg stood at the very center of German power. Our final destination is Dresden, a city that has become a universal symbol of both wartime destruction and the power of reconciliation. In February 1945, the city, known as the Florence on the Elbe for its magnificent Baroque architecture and art treasures, was devastated by Allied firebombing. Hundreds of thousands of buildings were destroyed, and tens of thousands of civilians were killed. The city was reduced to a mountain of rubble. At the heart of the destruction was the Frauenkirche, the Church of Our Lady, a glorious Baroque masterpiece. Its great stone dome held out for 2 days against the inferno before collapsing into a 42-foot-high pile of rubble. For 50 years during the communist era, that pile of ruins was left as it was, a stark and poignant war memorial. After German reunification, a decision was made to rebuild it. Using original plans and painstakingly salvaging and identifying thousands of original stones, the church was reconstructed. The new, lighter stones are mixed with the old, fire-blackened ones, creating a visible patchwork of past and present. Its reopening in 2005 was a global event, a powerful testament to hope and healing. Our journey through Germany's landmarks comes to an end, but the stories they tell are far from over. From the imperial grandeur of Aachen to the resurrected beauty of Dresden, from the romantic dreams of a Bavarian king to the solemn silence of Bergen-Belsen, each site offers a unique window into the human condition. They speak of ambition and faith, of art and power, of division and unity, and of the depths of cruelty and the heights of resilience. They are the physical memory of a nation, a complex tapestry woven from threads of light and shadow. I encourage you to embark on your own journey of discovery. Explore these places not just as a tourist, but as a curious and thoughtful observer. Let the stones speak to you. Feel the weight of history in the quiet halls of a castle and the palpable silence of a memorial. These landmarks are not static monuments. They are living classrooms, places of connection that challenge us to reflect on the past and consider our own role in shaping the future. They remind us that history is not something that simply happens to other people in other times. It is a continuous story, and we are all a part of it. Before you visit, do take a moment to check the official websites for opening times, booking requirements, and specific regulations. This is particularly important for the memorial sites, where our conduct must always be guided by the utmost respect for the victims and the solemnity of the place. Let your travels be marked by curiosity, empathy, and a genuine desire to understand. Thank you.